gonna read so much science fiction this year, y'all. So much. This is a lot of books that I want to read this year. Help me. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Book Stamp. My name is Kate, and today I wanted to sort of talk about all of the series I am planning on starting or continuing and trying to finish in 2021. Keeping track of all the series I have started and want to finish is something that I just wanted to have a physical record of, so I don't have to keep it in my brain and like be trying to finish all of these series. But first, I kind of wanted to mention the series that I don't really anticipate or am going to prioritize finishing. One is A Curse So Dark and Lonely. I read the first book in the series and I liked it, like I enjoyed it, but I just don't feel compelled to finish the series. I've had A Heart So Fierce and Broken like in my Libby for months and have just never read it. And I really did like the character of Gray and was interested that that's kind of where the sequel was going, but I don't know, I just really don't feel compelled to finish the series. I don't really need another Beauty and the Beast retelling in my life. So another one is Aurora Rising. The sequel to this is Aurora Burning, which I did for a long time really want to read, but at this point there's just so many better fantasy books out there that I want to read. It's not really on any of the free library apps, so I just really don't foresee myself finishing it or spending the money to like buy the audiobook, because I really liked the audiobook of the first one. So I don't know, that's a maybe for me, but there's a couple other maybes. The other maybe is The Women's War by Jenna Glass, which this is a book I really haven't seen on BookTube very much at all, but I found this at my local indie bookstore and did really enjoy the first one. There are some obvious plot holes to it, but I'm very interested in where the story goes, and so I'm hoping to pick up the sequel sometime this year. But if I don't get to it, it's like not do or die for me by any means. Some of the other low priority sequels are, I read the first in the Rise of the Kyoji books, and while I did really enjoy it, I didn't find it like the best book I'd ever read. I really read it for like the nostalgia feels, and so I'm like, if I get a chance to read the sequel, I will, but I'm not like gonna go out of my way to read it. I guess the only other series that really fits in here is Outlander, but for a completely different reason, is that there's just like 8 books in the series, and so I don't feel like the need to rush through them by any means. There's plenty out there. I really like the audiobooks for these, and the waitlist at the library is really long, so I'm just kind of getting through them as they come to me, but the audiobooks are also like 48 hours, so it's kind of hard to get through in 2 weeks, so they're just slow going, but I feel like that's how those books are like kind of meant to be enjoyed. So I might only get to 1 or 2 books this year, but that's fine. It's not a priority to get through all 8 this year. So next I want to talk about some of the series that I'm planning on starting this year that I'm very excited about. One of which is the Jade City series by Fonda Lee. I know there's 2 books out now. I'm not sure if there's supposed to be more further on, but I've heard that these are phenomenal. They're so well written and like engaging and interesting, and so I already have it reserved, the first Jade City, at the library, so I'm really excited to get that book and get started delving into this series. I've really been loving like women written adult fantasy, so very excited to start that. Another series is the Bridgerton series. I did really enjoy the show Bridgerton. I'm going to skip the first book for reasons I will link down in the comment, but there are some questionable consent issues. Well, they're not questionable in the first book, but I just have no intention of reading something like that, and I've already seen the show, which covered the same plot, so I'm just going to jump into Anthony's book, which I really liked him as a character, so I'm very excited to read his book. But this is kind of like Outlander, where I'm not going to try and power through all the books this year, perhaps, but sort of meander through them at my own pace when I kind of want a romance pick-me-up. I also am hoping to read Binti. I have the complete trilogy here, and I have been meaning to read this. These are short little novellas for a long time. I just really haven't carved out the time to read it. I think I'm going to try and read this in February for a sort of secret, not so secret TBR. So I'm hoping to read all 3 of them pretty much back to back to back. I also have Song of Blood and Stone, which is part of the Ersingle Chronicles by L. Penelope, which I've heard really great things about, and I've had this forever, and I just want to really get to it. I might read this in February as well because my January TBR is already way too long. So looking forward to starting this here pretty soon. Now for series that I have already started but are pretty high priority on my list to finish this year. The first of these is the Poppy War series by R.F. Kuang, which I've already read. The Poppy War. I have a copy of Dragon Republic that I've been wanting to read this book for so long. I got it for Christmas, bought it for myself because I wanted it, and I'm so excited to get to this, and I am really looking forward to it. My January TBR, as I've already said, is pretty full, so maybe February is when I will finally get to it, but I'm hoping to read this and then The Burning God as well. I'm waiting till it comes out in paperback so that I can have the nice matched set. I think it'll look so pretty, but really looking forward to finishing this series. I also want to finish Once and Future by Amy Rose Capetta and Cormac McCarthy. I read the first book. It's a duology, really liked it. I'm like halfway through the second book. I just need to get it back from my library again, so I'm looking forward to finishing that here really soon. I also started the Wayfarer series by Becky Chambers, which starts with A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, and I absolutely loved it, and so I'm really looking forward to reading the rest of the series and just like finishing out all of her work because I've just loved it. So like that is definitely a science fiction priority. I'm hoping to read a lot more science fiction this year and have several series that I am very interested in. The next series it's kind of a series, but it is a 3-book sort of trilogy. The Coal Tattoo, Clay's Quilt, and the third one that I can't remember the name of. But these 3 books by Silas House sort of follow the same family through multiple generations, and sort of, while each book deals with different characters, they're all like family members, but the books don't really overlap in whose story they're telling. And I read The Coal Tattoo this year, loved it, and I want to read more Silas House, so I'm hoping to be finishing out this trilogy of sorts this year. This is a lot of books that I want to read this year. Help me. I'm also hoping to finish The Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells. This is a sort of, most of them are novellas. I think the 6th one is actually going to come out this year, and the 5th one is a full-length novel. But they follow an AI who has sort of freed himself from the constraints of his society and sort of is exploring what his own humanity and not humanity really means for him. And I've read the first 4 novellas already this year and loved them. Hoping to finish out the series here pretty soon. Really been loving it. One of my favorite books of the year that it just didn't end up really eking it out into any of my like really top 10 lists, but I loved it last year was The Calculating Stars by Mary Robinette Kowal. And this is about a sort of fictionalized US where the space race happened very differently, and they're really pushing to colonize the moon and Mars a lot sooner than we are in our own timeline. And I read the first book this year, sort of just on a randomly got it, picked it up, and it's one of the best, like, love it so much. And there are 3 more books in that series, so I'm really looking forward to sort of finishing that out and sort of seeing where the story goes. And again, gonna read so much science fiction this year, y'all, so much. We also have the Gideon the Ninth series, which is called, I think, the Locked Tomb trilogy, which I just finished Gideon the Ninth like a couple days ago. Y'all are getting a little secret sneak peek into my January wrap up, but I really loved Gideon the Ninth so much. It was so good. I'm already looking forward to reading Harrow the Ninth because Harrow Hark was one of my favorite characters of that book. Like, I loved her more than I loved Gideon, and so I'm just really looking forward to this trilogy. And Harrow the Ninth is already out. I think Electa the Ninth comes out this year, so really looking forward to that. And then finally there is the Assassin's Apprentice trilogy, which there is a like larger world that is I guess it's actually called the Farseer trilogy. But I read Assassin's Apprentice and I read Royal Assassin several years ago, but I've seen them making such a resurgence on BookTube lately, and I remember like how much I loved these. Like, these were so good. I really enjoyed them. So I really want to read Assassin's Quest, I believe is the 3rd one. It's like 800 pages. So that is on the TBR this year as well, sort of round out my fantasy that I want to be reading. So really excited to finish up this series because I've just seen it all over BookTube, and I remembered how much I loved it. All right, so those are like all the series that I want to read this year, plus whichever ones I also decide to start this year, which I think my reading goal for the year is 75 books, so that's a pretty significant chunk of all of them. But I'm just so excited to read all of these books and really want to finish all of these series. Probably will not happen this year, but I'm glad to start tracking it so that I know sort of where to prioritize my reading, so that if it just gets way too long, I can start finishing series off. But I almost forgot to mention, I only have the Toll in an actual physical copy, but I'm hoping to reread the Scythe trilogy this year. There's some people on BookTube, I'll link it down below because I can't remember all the details, who are doing like a Scythe readathon. So I'm hoping to sort of participate in that because I really want to reread the Scythe trilogy because I loved it so much. So be on the lookout for that as well. What series are you reading this year? Are you reading any of these? There's like 100 to choose from, so hopefully you're reading some of them. But please leave a comment down below if you're reading any of these, or there's a series that you absolutely love that you don't see on here. And thanks for hanging out, y'all.